In this video we're going to look at how to create and configure an HBT project. So to do so you use the File menu and simply pick New Project, and this dialog is presented. Up at the top here is a root folder location where the project will be created. And as you can see, it's the user, My Documents, Havok behavior. If you want to change that, you can use this browse button here. It'll create a subfolder underneath this root folder, and by default a name is generated automatically to make it unique. So if you look down here at the bottom, you can see Havok behavior, and then the project subfolder name, and then also the HKP file, the project file itself, gets that same name. So I'm going to change that to demo, and if I want to change the name that it uses, I can click this checkbox and type in my own name here, so I could call it test or something. I'm just going to accept the default and let the directory and the project file be the same. So when I say OK here, HBT goes and creates the project file as well as the subfolders beneath it to hold the assets. So if we look in Windows Explorer, you can see Havok behavior. Here's our demo project. If you look over here on the right, there's the demo.hkp file, and there's a series of subfolders underneath here for storing the assets. These are default locations, and you can configure the project to either use these, which it will by default, or point elsewhere on disk. So there's an animations folder. This is where the animation HKX files that you create in your DCC app will be stored. There's a behaviors folder. This is where the state machines, the behaviors that you create in HBT, will be written to, and when you reload the project, read from. Character assets are the input character assets. These are the things like the rig, the skin, the ragdoll, and any fixed attachments you have for the character. The HKX files for those go in here. The characters folder is where the HBT created characters, the HKC files, will be written to, and when you reload the project, read from. And terrain are the HKX files that you export, which contain the scene and props that you'd like to appear in the viewport. So if we go back to HBT, I'm going to now configure the project so that it loads assets from a different location. So I'll go to Configure File, Configure Project, and this dialog comes up. It's really broken into two sections. At the top are the input assets, and at the bottom are the export options. And we'll talk about the export options in a different video. Right now we'll look at the input ones. So here are these same folder names, and over here on the right you can change the directory that they point to. So I'm going to do that for the character assets, animations, and terrain, and point them to a shared location where I have those files. So I'll just come up here and click the browse button, and I'm going to navigate down to where I've got my assets. So there's the characters, and just to speed this up, I'm going to copy this and paste it here. And when I browse, it'll be at that location. I can quickly change it. So the animations will be loaded from there, and the terrain, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll load the terrain from here. And it'll write, HBT will write its characters to that default location, and same for its behaviors. So when I say OK, you can see HBT loads up the assets from those locations. So the animations are all here in this folder. In the terrain folder, all the terrain files. So that's it to setting up the directories. There's one last piece you'll want to do, and that is configuring where the up axis in the viewport is. For the character assets, I'm going to use Z-axis is up. So you set that through the options dialog, and in the viewport tab down at the bottom there's an up axis property, and you can change this to any axis. I'm going to leave it at Z for my assets, for example. You often would want to change it to Y. With that, the project is set up. You can just go File, Save All, and the project file will be written, and you're ready to go. In the next video, we'll look at how to create a character.